This is my conversation with Enrico Andreska. Our conversation touches on Enrico's path as an artist and a traveler, and what brought him to the world of podcasting, where he focuses on bringing people with different perspectives together to find the proper way forward. We also discuss the influence that podcasters have nowadays in comparison to the traditional media, and we both lay out our visions for our respective podcasts. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the Jeffrey van Leeuwen podcast, please consider subscribing or following the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Leaving a comment or a positive review is also a great way to help out. And with that out of the way, here's my conversation with Enrico Andreska. Beautiful. So, Enrico, tell me who you are. What are you up to?
Hey, Jeffrey. I'm Enrico. I'm very excited to speak to you today. It's a pleasure for you to invite me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, express my opinions about certain things. And who am I? Well, I was thinking about that on the way here to this recording, and I came to the conclusion that I don't like labels that much. But there's a couple labels that I do like to subscribe to, and that would be that I am an artist, a traveler, and a humanist. And by humanist, I mean a lover of people. I'm very happy to see people and experience foreign cultures, and that's closely connected to me traveling and all that. So yeah, that's who I am, artist, traveler, humanist.
On what fronts are you, do you consider yourself artistic?
Generally, because, I would say that my artistic strive is that I like to explore new ideas and things. Practically, I paint. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we spoke before the recording a little bit. You're 31 years old, right?
That's right, yes.
Beautiful. And you like to travel, you say?
That's right. I love to travel. It is my favorite thing in the world.
Where did you go to so far? What are the most exciting things you've seen?
The most exciting things I've seen. I find something exciting everywhere I go. I can really find a love for many different places and peoples. So pretty much wherever I go, I find something that I love pretty immediately. And I have been on a couple of big journeys, and I would say the most important and biggest one was the one that I did after my graduation from high school. German equivalent of high school. I'm a German, and I went to Canada and got the chance to have a working visa for Canada. Was able to travel all the way across the Canadian landscape, and then make my way down south to Central America. And I was very fortunate to also then make my way through Central America as well. So that definitely changed me quite a bit.
I'm hearing that from a couple of Europeans when they went to Canada, that it really impressed them. My brother also went there. I believe by now it's like maybe 8-9 years ago, something like that. He went for work. He went there for like 6 months, and he was in the middle of a forest somewhere. And he was staying in like a small wooden shed in the middle of the forest somewhere, or something like that. And I remember him saying that there was a bear. I believe it's like a brown bear, a grizzly bear, or something like that, walking around. So in the morning when he peeked through the window, there was this bear just looking at him, from like 30 meters distance. But still,
it's so funny. The first thing that popped up when you mentioned that, I was going to say, "Did you see a bear?" And then you started the bear story.
Yes.
It's very typical when you go to Canada. Everyone's like, So you have a bear story, and they say like you're not supposed to leave Canada until you've seen one or experienced one. I was lucky to get one too. I was traveling quite a while, and I didn't see any. I was already disappointed, and then one moment it happened, and it was frightening because we were in a tent playing cards. It was me and my travel friend at the time. We were playing cards. It was raining outside. We were in this tiny tent, and then suddenly we hear a lady screaming that there's a bear outside our
like
tent.
in the distance or close by?
Well, we thought it was much closer because the lady was very hysterically screaming for bear and careful and all that.
Okay.
And when we got out, I got to say I was almost disappointed because it was, I don't know, maybe 10 meters away. I thought it was going to be right there, and I was
10
already
meters.
well, maybe something like that. And it was a black bear, and it was sort of doing its business over there in the bushes. It didn't seem threatening at all. But we ran to the car, and we jumped in the car, and we're hiding and laughing then very, very much about the experience. Good times in Canada, yeah.
Good times in Canada.
What did Yep. Go ahead.
These bears, they're apparently, just like you said, they're everywhere. So everybody who goes to Canada has like a bear story.
Yeah, in some places it's a real issue. They got these bear-safe trash cans in certain places because these bears, they come to the cities and they take over if you let them. So they got like trash cans that look like little tanks and all that. And you wonder, what's this for? Why is your trash can looking so big? What was on? And then people are like, well, we got some wildlife, man. And it's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You do indeed. Exciting stuff. It's exciting country. It makes a difference when you're in a country like, you're from the Netherlands, I'm from Germany. There's nothing that can hurt us, wildlife speaking.
Well,
like,
we have wolves now in the Netherlands. And they came from Germany, I believe. Yeah, we have wolves now.
They came from Germany. We gave you all our wolves.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought, and okay, I never heard that. I mean,
yeah, they've been here now since, what is it, a couple of years or something like that. So 4 years ago, there was like a couple wolves, so just 2 wolves or something like that. But now there's whole packs. And these farmers in the east of the country, because I believe they came from Germany, and these farmers on the east of the country, they're pretty much going crazy over defending their sheep. And there were a couple of attacks already. So a couple of, I want to say a couple of months ago, but I think it was end of last year, something like that. There was even an attack where a young girl in the Netherlands was attacked by a wolf, and she didn't die, so she's fine.
Wait, when she got bitten and all, like not just scared.
I believe so. No, I
I
believe so. I believe she got one bite.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's scary. Oh,
Yeah,
those German wolves.
they're here now.
Okay, well then take that back. Then you walk around the lands with a little bit more caution. I was gonna say, because you go on a hike in Germany and you sort of feel like the king of nature because nothing can hurt you. The worst thing you can see is like a deer. But yeah, with the wolves,
Yeah.
I mean, there's been these reports about the wolves over here too. But I never took them too serious because I'm always like, well, come on, they're probably from the Netherlands and they'll go back over there. So,
Wait, the Germans think the wolves are from the Netherlands?
No. I think we all think they come from Poland. They come from the east. I think that's the narrative.
right.
We're all like, they come from over there, and the Indian farmers are concerned, and rightfully so,
Yes,
man. These
yes.
things are dangerous. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They take out they take out a lot of sheep
That's the issue.
or animals at all. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I wouldn't want to face one in the wild. No, thank you. No.
I don't think there's any measure yet. I would have to double check that if what I'm saying is correct, but I don't think there's any measure yet like shoot the wolves or something like that. I think the government is just letting them be, but I would have to double check that. I'm not really that sure.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see what you're gonna do with them then. Yeah, if they're actually gonna turn out to be a massive issue, then what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but so far it's just a couple of packs, for as far as I know. So it's well, within air quotes, it's under control. At least that's how I know it right now. But once again, I might be wrong on that. But yeah, Canada, beautiful country. I never went there myself. I would love to go there, but it's just these stories that I hear about so much open nature. These long roads that lead. You can go pretty much 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers or even longer without seeing anything except for trees.
Yeah.
And beautiful nature and bears. It's a beautiful. It seems like a beautiful, beautiful country.
Absolutely. So, and beautiful people too. Friendly, like the whole stereotype about them being extra friendly. They really are extra friendly. Nice, open-hearted people. Also, the Americans, obviously, they're neighbors.
Hmm.
But certainly, certainly nice people. Had made some great connections there.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I might go there at some point. A part of my family is from Canada, actually.
Mm.
So my brother is married with a lady from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of people from her family came to Netherlands as well, but
Mm-hmm.
still a lot are living in Canada. So that's a very good reason to visit there at some point.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure where they're living. I think it's the East Coast, but I might be
Mm-hmm.
wrong there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
will be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know what the situation in Canada is right now. You hear mixed reports coming out of that country, I would say. And I don't know if it turned to the better ever since I went there. And I think that was like 2016 or something. I don't know. Yeah, something like that, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, when I was there, and yeah, I don't know what Mr. Trudeau is doing to it. There's certainly a couple of scandals, international scandals that I'm sure we both heard about. The
Hmm.
trucker protests and all that stuff. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, we'll see where that place is going. We'll see where the world is going generally, right? Like things are changing. What do you think? Are you optimistic for the future?
Well, it depends on who you ask
Yes.
regarding Canada. I think
Mm,
when it comes to, like you said, the people and the friendliness and just the general attitude and well, the nature and how Canada itself is as a country, I think it's well, to me at least from a distance, it seems like a beautiful country, and that's an answer without any politics in it. I think if you add politics into the equation, it's a little bit of a different answer, but that doesn't change the country itself. Not on the levels that we just discussed, at least. So.
mm,
Um, yeah,
mm.
if you ask me what do you think about Canada the last couple of years, I would give you the exact same answer as just now.
Mm.
But yeah, on a political level, that's a different situation. And yeah, you're.
Yeah. And the question is if that even changes things on the ground, because if you talk to everyday
Mhm.
people, they just don't want to be bothered with that stuff, and they'll still be friendly and nice to you. And yeah. Eh.
Well, maybe I do notice, and I will speak from my own experience. So here in Netherlands,
Mhm.
I do notice that more people seem to be politically driven than, let's say, the pre-COVID times. So let's say 2017, 2018, around that period. So politics seems to me at least to be a bigger topic of the day nowadays, and it seems to be very
Mhm.
divisive as well to people. And
Mm.
that seems to me, once again, from a distance, to be the case in other parts of the Western world as well.
Yeah.
But once again, that's just the political side of the equation.
I think so too. And why do you
Hmm.
think that is the case? That's the big question. Why are we all caring so much about something that, I remember 10 years ago, it was
Hmm.
just a thing for certain people who were engaged in politics and then others were just not. And nowadays, I went to university where I remember explicitly one moment where um, the professor asked the question, well, what is politics? And then fellow student raised her hand and said, well, everything's politics. And he was like,
Hmm.
well, what do you mean? Like literally everything? And she was like, I mean, literally everything. The grass growing, the grass growing on the on the yard is politics. And she made a case. And she didn't convince me how that is politics. But why do you think students think that everything is politics? And why do you think that? Because I got the notion you think that that's not a good development. Why do you think that that's maybe not a good development?
So if I will put the head on of that student that you just mentioned, everything is politics, and then let's run for that for a sec.
Hmm.
And it's not like I necessarily agree with it, but if I would try to, I believe steelman is the right word here. If I
Yep.
would try to steelman that argument, I would say something like politics is the layer that lays over the world and governs everything that is under that layer. So the grass growing is falling under that layer because what we do from a political standpoint influences the grass's ability to grow
Hmm. Exactly.
to a certain degree. Because a very specific example you could give there is, and once again, this is not my viewpoint, but if we go with that argument, you could say, let's let's go with the CO2 argument. You could make the argument, well, CO2 is actually a bad example because that makes plants grow faster.
Let's take like a pesticide.
Well, yeah, that or the I know what the Dutch word is. It's called stikstof. I'm not sure what the
Stickstoff. That's a German word.
I think the English
Nitrous
version is
oxide?
carbon.
Oh, carbon? Is it? Stickstoff. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. Or
Yeah, so stikstof.
stickstoff.
That's the thing that dawns. Well, apparently, I don't know the mechanics of it, but apparently it dawns onto the ground and it prevents it. It kind of suffocates plants. Apparently, so you could make the argument, like from a political standpoint, the choice that we make that impact the amount of stickstof that is being produced or being allowed within a certain region directly impacts, the plant's ability to grow over there. So that would be then an argument in favor of that worldview. Me personally, I would say, well, to a certain degree, everything is politics because, ask yourself, what is politics? And I think politics is the mechanic that is one of the primary mechanics that is driving governance over a certain region. So, in a certain sense, you can pretty much put everything in that box of governance. But what I think, specifically regarding politics, is that not necessarily everything has to be put into politics or into governance, because then you would have laws about how fast grass can grow, for example, if you want to micromanage from a political standpoint everything that goes on in the world. So I think, generally speaking, governance and the law, it's like a framework. That's leaving a margin open for everything else to happen within that margin, but it provides a framework for society to operate in, generally speaking. And it should be, from my view personally, a minimalistic approach. So we should have laws and like what they have in the United States, the Constitution, right? It's just a couple of golden rules, pretty much. But those golden rules, they are golden rules and nothing more than that. It's minimalistic, but at the same time, it's very powerful and it gives people a lot of clarity. And around those golden rules, as long as we are in the perimeters, as long as it doesn't turn illegal, and then you can ask yourself the question, what is illegal? But it's a different discussion. But within the perimeters, I think operating, that's how politics should work, I think.
And why do you think there was such a shift that everything is politics now? Why do people care so much more? Is that, to a degree you can say it's a good thing? There was a time in Germany where we would say Politikverdrossenheit. So that was where people were arguing that especially young people were not interested or caring about politics at all. And there was the sort of time that I was a teenager, and now it seems to be different.
That is a very loaded question, and there's a lot behind there, way more than I could possibly sum up right now. But I think there's a couple of issues that happened in the last 10 years that were divisive fundamentally and pushed people towards picking a side. And there's a couple of things over there. There's, for example, the left versus the right thing that's happening. You have the climate discussion going on.
Right. Okay, I think I got you. Well, I think it also what's also a big point there is the like and dislike button that just came to my mind. I was just talking about with a friend yesterday about the influence of media, and I think we all heard that argument that also social media sort of has this ability to put people in bubbles, and then well, we talk. This has been a very old discussion. I think we all, pretty much everyone agrees on that point, certainly.
Except for the media.
Yeah, they're clinging on. They're clinging. So this is why we are independent media creators. So yeah, I appreciate your effort of starting this podcast. And your essential idea is that you take people from the academy and interview them, give them an ability to speak and connect, and do that through your channel. Yes.
Yeah, and this also ties into your earlier discussion about what you said earlier about the about the media, there's I think the last 5 years or something like that, there's a huge shift towards the quote unquote power that the traditional media has versus the podcasters. I mean, look at Joe Rogan. Look how big that guy is. That guy is
the
bigger
biggest
than
media outlet in the world.
It's exactly. It is bizarre how much more effective he is than for example, MSNBC or CNN or those kind of traditional legacy media, as Elon Musk would call them. And I would agree, because legacy is a pretty technical term. But aside from that, there's a pretty big difference. And what you also hear nowadays is that the media is pretty biased, and they have been for a long time, but it came forward with these modern discussions that we had over the last, let's say, 8 to 9 years. And it really came forward in the COVID times, I think.
Yes.
And I think people, generally speaking, are getting awake to the fact that the media might not be serving the news as it should be serving it. Which is where the podcasters come in, especially these long format podcasts, right? Where you're listening to someone for 2-3 hours. I don't know where, I think Lex Friedman was the person who said that, or Joe Rogan or whatever, doesn't really matter. But it's very hard for people to put up a facade for 2 or 3 hours in a row, in a non-stop conversation. So that means that there's, if there is something happening in that conversation that is manipulative or anything like that, you will pick up on it. You will notice it, because you can't keep your facts straight for 3 hours in a row. So it makes the conversations way more genuine, way more approachable, way more trustworthy, and they hold so much more weight than these short. Light
sound bites and all.
Exactly. That you would see on traditional media channels.
Yeah, and no advertisement in the extent that there will be in the traditional media. Now it's kind of creeping into podcasts more and more. I'm bothered. Are you bothered by the advertisements coming in left and right?
Yeah, so it depends on where you go. Lex Friedman, for example, I think his approach is really, really good.
Yeah.
So on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, if you would listen to Lex Friedman, what he would do is he would do his intro at the beginning, and then he would take 5 to 6 to 7 minutes to go through all the sponsors.
Yes.
And then he would say, okay, and here's my guest, and let's start now. And then you would hear the music, and then the rest of the episode, however long it is, you don't hear any more advertisements. And I think that is beautiful. On the YouTube side of things, he's doing it differently. He takes that sponsor run at the beginning out, for as far as I know, because I listen to him on Apple Podcasts, not on YouTube. But for as far as I know, he takes that block out, and then you just have your regular, YouTube ads in the middle, which I find personally incredibly annoying.
Yes.
So on Apple Podcasts, I don't have that issue. But yeah, advertisement on YouTube specifically is bizarre. It's really, really disruptive. It's really annoying. And actually, funny story to end this with. I had a YouTube Premium account, a family version to be clear, and I paid, I think, 17 or 18 euros for it a month, which is fine because both my wife and I could use it then on our own accounts. But this is in this month I actually canceled it because per November they increased the price by 60% over here in Netherlands at least. So now it's, I believe, 26, 27 or something like that, which is an insane jump. So yeah, to be honest, I went off YouTube and not using that anymore to watch podcasts at all. I'm just using Apple Podcasts exclusively.
It almost feels like it's time for a new thing around the corner, huh?
Oh, that would be lovely.
Yeah,
that would be lovely. X is trying to do that. Elon Musk is trying to turn X also into a media platform, and it's not that good for it now. But it seems to be going towards becoming more of a YouTube competitor. And there's a lot of shows on X at the moment. It's pretty hard. Well, it's not hard, but it's annoying to find because you have to go through a whole feed. There's not like a beautiful playlist like you have on YouTube or something like that. But yeah, they're moving that way. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that the YouTube is getting more and more annoying. Same with the streaming platforms that they interrupt you midway through your film that you're trying to watch, just like back in the old days when you were watching TV. So
Hmm.
it sort of just comes back around. And I wonder if they, when they decide that, what really went into that business model, if they thought about
Hmm.
this idea from the get-go and they promised advertisers, yeah, I know right now there's nothing, but just wait until we got enough subscriptions and then we're going to hit them with the two clips every 30 minutes. Or if they just sort of got greedy now, because you'd always be on the team of Netflix in the beginning, because they sort of seemed like the rebels to contemporary media, which was the TV uh, at the time, yeah. And you would sort of root for the underdog doing things differently, and now they turn out to do the same thing. So I'm really looking forward to something like X going a new route yet again. It's just always the issue is how do you make money, right? These people, everyone wants to make some money, and you do that through advertisement. Some people do it better, like Friedman, they do it in the beginning. And I think if you build enough trust with your audience, you kind of want to know what he's advertising. Because when
Hmm.
you go ahead and you think that Mr. Friedman is a worthwhile character, you're thinking, well, what does this guy do on his when he's not in a podcast? You know,
Hmm.
what is he working out with? What
Hmm.
is he eating? What is he got it for a mattress? You know, and then he'll he'll
Or
find out.
VPN.
Yeah. Oh my God, these VPN.
VPN.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's the thing. That's I also love that about Lex Friedman personally because always sponsor mentions are they don't sound like ads. Like you
Uh,
said, he's talking about stuff that he's using. I would love, I have also have products that I'm using. I would love to have a sponsor bite at the beginning, with those kind of products,
mhm.
because it adds to the conversation, it adds to the podcast. It doesn't take away value, it adds value to it.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's I
I've
think that's a very
discovered
beautiful
good
way.
products through that too, right? You'll
One hundred
discover,
percent.
yeah, yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
So,
I learned from Friedman or from Andrew Huberman about electrolytes,
mm-hmm.
which I didn't know about before. But electrolytes during training, it really saves it really. And I will save my life is a bit of an extreme, but it really helped me out because if I'm really working out very hard and I just drink water, what I tended to get was cramp in my calf,
Mm-hmm.
specifically in my left leg most often.
Mm.
And having electrolytes during training, and I heard that during one of those ad rolls, it solved it because it contains potassium, it contains sodium, all those things that generally speaking you sweat out when you're sweating, and now it's being replenished. So now all of a sudden I haven't had cramps for a long, long time because of that. Beautiful.
What do you work out?
So just general weight training.
Mm.
I do that from home, but
Mm-hmm. Mm.
most of my training is martial arts, and I do that outside. So I do both Krav Maga
Mm.
and Jiu-Jitsu. Krav
Mm.
Maga once or twice a week, and Jiu-Jitsu 3 to 4 times a week. And every session, Krav Maga session is 1 hour. Jiu-Jitsu sessions generally are around. Officially, it's 1.5 hours, but I always stay longer and roll with the black belt because I love that.
Mm.
So generally for me, it's like 2 hours, max 2.5 hours, something like that. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, well, those are sports where you certainly need your electrolytes.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
you know what I've been experimenting with is creatine. Creatine, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
that stuff's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
think there've been some new studies where they suggest there's seems to be just benefits. People
Yes.
were concerned about um, was it kidney stones or something that might happen when you consume a lot of it. But
Oh, I haven't heard that.
yeah, there was something, and don't quote me on the kidney stone. It might be another issue there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But it is doing me really well. Is you
Mm-hmm.
feel more energized, you feel like after a good workout, just you didn't work out,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Mm-hmm.
you can sort of feel it brings the oxygen to your muscles, so you feel that little bit of pump
Mm-hmm.
that you experience after a workout. And I think it does me well for my cognition too, for my thinking, for my ability to concentrate. So yeah, look into that. It's just 2 scoops of that. It's not very expensive. You can get a whole big pack of that stuff. Tastes like nothing, and so far it just benefits.
It does taste like nothing. That's true. No, I've been taking that for years actually.
Oh,
So
there
I
you go.
know I know creatine pretty decently.
Hmm.
Creatine monohydrate specifically, and I believe it's also the most studied supplement in the world. And it just has a lot of benefits and not any cons for as far as I know if you limit it to the specified intake.
Yep.
So how much do you use and when do you use it specifically?
I use whenever I think about it, which is usually midday. I'll usually have one for lunch, and that'll be like a shake. I'll combine it with some protein powder, and I take
Okay.
2 spoons of it. I know it's like all measured in grams, and I never got to figure really how much grams that is, so I was just always sort of winging it. And I heard you can take up to 5 grams, and I don't think that there'll be 5 grams. It seems I don't know. It's
No,
hard to say with powder.
you can
right?
take more.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you can definitely take more. I personally take 5 grams as well, but you can go up to 15, I believe, depending on how intense your training is.
How many tablespoons is 5 grams for you?
Well, I have like a measurement cup, so I know
Yeah.
that if I have a flat scoop, that is 5 grams for me. And I take it in the morning, by the way, just every morning with water, 260 milliliters of water. But a teaspoon, I believe, is a heaped teaspoon at least is like maybe 2.5, 3 grams.
Yeah.
So I think with 2 teaspoons, if they're heaped, like a nice little mountain on there, you might be fine. I think that's 5-6 grams then.
I thought so.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Yeah.
No, it's creatine is one of these, and I think it's there's a couple of other ones, but creatine is by far my favorite supplement. Yeah, it does a couple of things for me. The same as with you. In my case, it helped with brain fog, so it helped my cognition improve as well. It also pumps you up a little bit because your muscles, you mentioned oxygen. I don't know that, but I do know that creatine tends to make your muscles hold more water, which in turn makes your muscles slightly larger. So it gives you more of a, not necessarily fit, but it makes you a slightly bit bigger. Not that much, but just a bit. So it's kind of like a free pump, pretty much. It's beautiful for that. But it also makes you... It puts the energy in your, because it has more moisture in the muscles, I believe, it gives you more energy and more capabilities when you're actually stressing your muscles during training or during workout. So you can go a little bit further than you will be able to go otherwise, which is a beautiful addition. And there's no downsides to it, for as far as we know at least.
Yeah. It would be a shame if there was a new study coming out tomorrow. Where it's like 5 grams is way too much. Oh my god, your brain's gonna explode in like 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's been so much studies on it. The chances of there being any downside is not 0, but it's pretty low.
Yeah. Supplements in general. I mean, that's always connected to the podcast that you mentioned, and it's such a big thing. You believe in supplements? I mean, it's a belief. There's scientific proof that they work and that they have a lot of upsides. But did you ever take anything else where you actually felt the difference? Because I've been experimenting with quite a bunch, and now I ran out of a bunch, and I was just like, what's going to happen if I just stop using them and I don't feel the difference, eh? So it's it sometimes seems like just that extra percent. That if you're generally healthy, you'll maybe feel a percent more strong or awake, aware, and able. And for the long run, it's going to give you a good buffer for if you do get sick. You might not get sick that bad. But what do you think about like the green powders that they're trying to sell, the AG1 and that? Did you try that stuff?
I haven't, no, and I find it hugely expensive for what you get in return for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I have not tried that one specifically. But yeah, because your question is how do you what supplements are you using and how do you look at supplements at all? That's your question, right?
Underneath that question, I wanted to actually ask, like, because we do seem to both have quite a bunch of trust in these podcasters, and I would be shattered a bit in my trust when it turns out that this AG1 stuff is just really just screens that, are not
Oh,
like
like that. Yeah,
the
yeah,
most important supplement, as they say, Right, you know what I mean? Like, this might be, I get a feeling that there's a bit of a scam, especially if you got people like Mr. Peterson just eating meat, being fine. So he doesn't need any green powder. Right. So I don't know. I guess it then again, I think there comes up the topic of belief again. Because I think if you believe in it, and then it'll work for you. Right. Do you believe in that?
Well, I like elimination tests, so I like to experiment with stuff to see what it does, and then make decisions based on that experience. So there's a couple of supplements that are like my staples. I always use them, and creatine is one of them. Fish oil is another one of those. A multivitamin is another one of those. Those three are like my staples, and I always have them. Outside from those, I like to experience just with seeing what happens. And the electrolytes that I just mentioned is a very good example. So I had the cramps in my leg, and by taking the electrolytes, I eliminated those cramps. And me personally, if I work out very hard, I tend to sweat very quickly. So that means automatically that the amount of sodium and potassium that my body is losing, I believe, is higher, and therefore gets depleted way quicker than other people. Which is where the electrolytes come in. That fixes that issue for me. Because if I don't do that, because this is also the argument that sometimes that sometimes comes up, right? Why would you take supplements? Just eat diverse food. Just eat what you need, and you will be fine. And yeah, to a degree, that's completely 100% correct. But there are very legitimate instances where supplements come in, and this is one of those. So that's also one I add to my staples. I have it with me every single time I'm working out right now. So I always have a liter of water with me, and I mix like a bag of electrolytes in them, shake it up, and it's good to go for the training. And I go through that liter generally during the whole training. Outside from that, I like to experiment. So I like to ask myself, what do I want to do right now? Do I want more energy when I'm working out, or do I want more brain clarity? That's where the fish oil for me came in. Or what is my goal? And a couple ones that I've been experimenting with are glutamine L. So glutamine L, I believe, if I mention it correctly, and I don't know the fancy words for it, but I believe it's a synthesized version of protein. So if you take protein, your body transforms it into amino acids, and amino acids are like the food for your muscles. I believe glutamine L is one specific amino acid that is used by your muscles in order to grow, in order to become stronger. So what I've been trying to do is, because I take creatine in the morning, every morning, regardless if I'm working out or not that day, I'm taking it in the morning. But glutamine L, I'm taking after my workout. I mix it with 260 milliliters of water. I take 10 grams, I mix it. In my case, it has a nice raspberry flavor. And then, I use that. And I'm experimenting with it. And I'm not really noticing much with that. But I do believe it's helping me recover a bit quicker. And I've heard it also makes the quality of sleep better. But me as a person, I already sleep good. I don't have a problem sleeping. So it's really hard to measure if it does anything on that front for me. But that's one. What else? Yeah, protein. Every now and then.
Magnesium is another good one.
That one is in my multivitamin.
I see. There we go.
That's just a nice one to whatever you were missing. I tend to see it visually, right? You have like your body contains like 100 vials, and all those vials, they need to be topped off, right? What a multivitamin does is whatever vials need just a little bit more, in order to get to the top. That's what a multivitamin is for, just to top everything off, that you're good to go. Yeah.
Do you ever get critique for doing that from people and saying you self-optimizing, or what are you trying to be? Why you striving up? What's wrong with you trying to be healthy? Why are you not sick like the rest of us? Do you ever get that? Or you're not surrounded by these people?
I don't think I've been sick for years now. The last time was during Corona time, I think. But no, not actually. The most common one I hear is like, why do you use supplements? Just eat. Just eat diverse. Yeah, we already tackled that one, but there's a very legitimate reason. If, let's take creatine, for example. If you want 5 grams of creatine in your body, and we just discussed it, there's a very legitimate reason why you would want to have creatine in your body. We just discussed those. Creatine primarily comes from red meat. But if you want to get 5 grams of creatine from red meat, you would have to eat like 1.1 or 1.2 kilos of red meat. Yeah, that's not practical. I'm not going to eat 1.2 kilos of meat on a single day. So yes, you can, but no, I won't. So yeah, that's generally the argument that I hear quite often. Yeah. And last example I will give you. My wife doesn't eat fish, so automatically that means I don't eat fish. But fish is a primary source of omega-3 fatty acids.
Yeah.
We don't get those. My wife doesn't get those because, again, we don't eat fish. So then the alternative is like, okay, you want butter to some degree also contains omega-3, but you have to eat a ton of butter in order to get the amounts that you need. So once again, this is one of those things where for us, fish oil, omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil supplements came in. That helps us a lot. Yeah,
that was one of those, but I was taken regularly. Thought you imagine you have feeling of improvement, but then I ran out and I just sort of don't feel the difference. Okay. So we got to experiment. Maybe it just, everybody is different. Yes. And that's why I don't like this one size fits all approach and everyone has to take this. People are fine, especially when you travel. You go to places. We got some, us like discussing about supplements for all this time. People would laugh in the vast other parts of the world because they got other issues. They're happy when you get something to eat. So I sometimes feel very privileged with these supplements and optimizing yourself. I remember I was in the Caribbean once and we were doing this wild thing where they got this sport where they're running down a volcano and just like doing a race. These locals.
Okay.
Oh, it's yeah. It's
trying who's faster downstairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
it's like the Scottish running after their cheese down the hill.
That's right. And people fall and they're fast, these dudes, and they got old shoes, and that's the thing. I showed up with my quote unquote old shoes, which were still Nike trainers, and these boys, they looked at me and they were like, "Man, I would give so much to have these shoes." And I was bothered doing this race with these shoes because I got these old shoes, they're stupid, and they looked at me like I had the best equipment there, right? So that being applied to the supplements and us like worrying about getting the right amount of magnesium and this and that, it sometimes just feels like we really are disconnected from a big part of the world where they would just be happy to have any shoes or anything to eat, right? I sometimes feel
any food,
guilt for it, but you just sort of feel you're on a pedestal with these.
And what do you do with that feeling, with that idea? How does it impact the choice that you make?
Yeah, I sort of try to then go slow. So when I run out of something, I'm not gonna be like, oh, we really need this. I think back about the people that I met that have very little, were still very happy, seemingly healthy, and we're still getting by very good. So I try to think, hey man, like, your human body is so adjustable. You can what is that English word? You can live in so many different environments and conditions, right? So
Hmm.
try to I try to eat
Resilience.
resilience. That's right. I try to keep
Hmm.
up my resilience of eating some bad food every now and then, just to also not get into that mindset of being like this privileged person that's I'm never gonna eat a kebab because that's like shitty meat and stuff. You know, I try to balance it
Hmm.
out with having with getting back to sort of the working people's food every now and then and all that. And that's not to say that I'm managed to wiggle my way out of that situation of living a very privileged and healthy life. I still, you know, have to see how to get by. But yeah, so you sort of balance yourself out. You got to balance yourself out. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're pretty much practicing humility,
Yeah.
and not really humility, but appreciation for what you have by realizing that we are in a privileged position where we are able to have the nutrients that we need and the experiences that we want, where there's other places in the world that don't have those same privileges.
Exactly. Yeah. You have a good way of summarizing the things that people are saying. I noticed that it's a good skill.
That's my job.
It's your job. Yeah.
But thank you.
What do you do for a living?
By the way, just in between, Enrico, before we continue,
Yep.
you're cutting out around every 20 seconds, and then you're silent for like a second or something like that. So there
Okay.
might be something going on. I'm not
I
sure
have
if you hear the same from my side going on.
no. I don't hear that. I do have a suspicion that it might be the screensaver going on.
Yeah, that might be it. So you have to keep your screen on.
Right.
Yeah,
Give me a second. I'll do. Humanist. Here. I think this one is it. Here we go. I think I got
you
it.
have it.
Yes.
Screensavers. That's so Windows 3.1. Remember those old screensavers from back in the day where you would where you saw the camera going into a maze on those old Windows 95 computers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, those were the best.
They were pretty amazing, eh? They
Yeah, you
had
don't have
such a
to.
profound influence on people. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You don't have them anymore, I think. Now it's just a stupid piece of color that's moving around the screen or something like that.
But I keep thinking about that. How much influence does this have on culture? Where you know you got like a screensaver, like I don't know if you're using this Amazon Fire Stick on your TV or an Apple TV, and I think after some while when you don't have any activity, it cuts to some landscapes and just like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very basic photos. And I just always wondered how many people are involved in choosing this photo over the other, and do they know what type of influence they have on the general culture? Because you got to think millions of people look at this damn tree and
That's true.
right, yeah, and why take that? And is there? And I'm always that there's like I'm a bit conspiratorial with that. Like maybe there's a hidden message in there somewhere, right? Like maybe there's a simple thing. Because if I would be in that position, I would be like tempted to put a little something in there just to get people, you know, just to wait if someone will ever figure it out that I just put my initials carved into that tree and the side or something. Stuff like that.
Yeah. No, the
All right.
best mazes are still the best screensavers are still from the Windows 95 era, I think.
Yeah.
Especially that maze. I love that thing.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
aquarium and all, they were really advanced. And
Oh, yeah.
do you remember
Hmm.
thinking like that's the best graphic you ever seen in your life? You know, you open up a Windows 95 for the first time and someone shows you a screensaver that's like 3D animated and you're like, wow, this is real. This is like, this looks exactly like real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's dorky.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Okay, it should be off. The screensaver should be off now. So
Okay, I think you were still cutting out a little bit, but we'll just see how it goes, and then we'll take it from there.
all right, man. Okay, yeah.
All right, beautiful. So, where were we? Technical troubleshooting during the podcast.
Oh man, that is the biggest downside of it. To me, is the technical side of things.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like we had massive issues with the first recordings of our podcast, and did some beginners mistakes and all that, and it's so annoying. It would be so great to have someone that would just take care of all the technical stuff. I think.
Yeah, you do have those. It's actually quite insane. I've been looking into so one of the things that's holding back this podcast right now is the lack of video.
Yep.
Which is on purpose because I don't just want to go for I don't just want to put a webcam up that shows you my crappy background and then we can go from there, And sure, you might make the argument it's better than nothing, but no, it really is not, because I think the production quality then will be quite terrible. So one of the things that I would like to do before we go up is get some proper equipment, and I have a couple of things already here laying around.
Mm-hmm.
But some equipment, a nice background, just the bare basics, and then take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, to bring it back to the point of someone just taking care of that, I was looking for like a studio to rent, or like a dedicated podcast place. To record conversation that you could just walk into, you have a space, you don't have to worry about your microphone, about your video setup, or about your software. It's all being taken care of by these people that do it on a daily basis. But then you pay around, I believe the number was around €800 per episode. Which, bizarre. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way I'm going to go for that.
Yeah.
And this is also, to be quite honest, this is also where some practical skills come in. So I have a technical background, so I can do pretty much everything myself. The only thing I'm not is for as far as I know at least, the only skill that I'm really lacking is more in the creative direction. So creating a proper background, making sure that everything looks nice, that the lighting is good, that the skin color is good, that kind of stuff. I'm not good at that. Luckily, my wife helps me with that, especially with making the thumbnails. She's more the creative type, and I'm kind of hoping to make her a producer in the future if the podcast takes off. So that's a discussion that we actually had a couple of times.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's for the future. She can help me with that. But anyway, yeah. So that's what's holding me back, at least for now, regarding the video.
Video makes a whole difference. I heard you talk about
100%.
how much time you spend editing just the audio, and
Yes.
we started out with video, and we also were crazy enough to go into wanting to have a bit more than just us talking in my podcast, me and my guests talking, but also have some intro, and then also show more of the environment where we are. The idea was that we're going to meet the guest at their natural habitat. So we're going to go to their place or their office or wherever they like to hang out, and we film their surroundings a little bit more. So,
So that's a lot of effort.
oh man, dude, it's so much, and I had no experience in editing, and I got into it now, and it's a lot of work. So there's more working hours ahead for you, but it'll be great too, because I agree with you when you said that it's good work, and it's hard work, but it's good work. You know why you're doing it for. You learn while you're doing it, and you just gotta, when you start out, you just gotta get through that sort of thing, to make it. That's your challenge. I always see that as.
Yeah, and it's not a bother at all. It's actually quite fun to listen back to the conversations. And I notice this pretty much every single time. And I'm sure that I will also notice it with the conversation that you and I are having right now. So right now, I'm picking up what you're saying. We are interacting with each other, but I don't necessarily notice the nuances in what you're saying, because that requires more of a vision that only a person has from the sidelines, right? This is also why if you are interviewing someone for a new position, generally speaking, you would not do that alone. You're doing that with someone else, because then you could be the interviewer and the other person could look at the more nuanced behavior of the person you're interviewing, like, what they're saying, how they're behaving, what their body language is communicating. So I'm very sure that if I listen back to this conversation with you after recording it, I'm gonna pick up straight away points that you mentioned during this episode that I don't have in mind right now. And that is the beautiful thing about having these kind of conversations. There's so much depth in it, and there's definitely with the two conversations that come to mind that I had recently with people are those with Mara Katria and with Adam, about creativity and about directing with Mara, and about psychoanalysis with Adam. Those conversations have so many layers in them. To me, I listen to those conversations 2-3 times, even after publishing them. It's a beautiful way to learn. It's a beautiful way to really hear what people say, even if it's not in the conversation that you and I are having right now. That's so much fun.
Agreed, absolutely, and also good for self-reflection. You look at yourself, hear yourself, or look at yourself through the screen or through the headphones, and you make out subtleties where you might have a chance to improve in your language, in the way you conduct yourself, etc., etc.
What do you generally hear when you hear yourself?
What do I generally hear? Well, I hear the points that I don't like mostly. I hear a lot of, I'm a very good self-critical person, so I hear all the I hear all the ways that I get stuck with my thoughts, and I generally think, okay, well, you gotta improve that, and we'll work on that. So part of me doing my podcast is also me trying to find a better way to communicate. So I'm a guy that takes in a lot of information. I spend a lot of my waking days taking in information, if like through a book, through a certain media, through whenever I work out, I also listen to something. And it's usually something that's just on the edge of my ability to understand. So I like to challenge myself with that, and I don't like pop literature or a stupid show. I just can't do it. I just can only do it for like maybe 30 minutes, and then I'm like, all right, I gotta delve into the history of the Soviet Union now, like, because this it's like it's fine, but then it just don't get challenged. So I take in a lot of information, and I'm not the best of presenting it then yet again. So putting it out again, I sometimes get tangled up in my thoughts, and stumble over words, and the mouth moves faster than the brain, or the brain moves faster than the mouth. And I'd like to tackle that. So that's a way of doing it, is starting your own podcast. For exactly that, for self-betterment, and also for the betterment of other people. It's made some people really happy to have them on. Well, some people, well, I haven't had so many episodes, but that one guy that I interviewed, I literally just picked up on the street, and
you're mine. You're coming with me.
he was outside of my. He was just. I opened up the window curtains one morning, and he's hanging up these posters for a political party. It was the EU election.
Okay.
He was hanging up these posters, and they were from the MLPD, the Marxistic Leninistic Party of Germany. So the communists. Yeah. And
you can have a podcast about the Soviet Union with them.
Exactly. And I waved to him, and I said, my guy, don't you want to talk about your party and why you believe that that's a good thing to do, hanging up these posters here in front of my house? I was not it sounds more aggressive than I was. Certainly wasn't aggressive, but he was happy to talk to me, and
you mean assertive?
Assertive.
Yeah.
Assertive. Okay. Yeah. So there we go. Yeah, you make people, and then it sort of inspired him to also create something like that on his own, and was very happy how the conversation turned out. It was actually really curious because I was able to bring people with very different opinions together. So for my first episode, I had a self-proclaimed capitalist on, a very interesting character, also an artist, an actor for a living, but also podcaster, very engaged politically. is sort of guy that I would say has a ideology similar to ours, what I presume. And he put forward his argument, and at the end of the episode, I said, well, if there's anything you heard as a listener that you disagree with, please make your voice heard, and I would like to speak to you too. So the second guy that I found on the street, I told him exactly that. I told him, hey, listen to my first episode, and I think you have some disagreements with this guy. I would like to hear your side of the story. He listened to it, and he was like, well, yeah, you're damn right. I have some disagreements. And I was like, well, perfect. So I went over to his house.
Tell me all about them.
Yeah, and he did, and it was great. It was great. I went over to his house. He was very nice. He invited me to his house, and I got to talk to him. And if that wasn't cool enough, then I was like, after I finished that conversation, it was very fascinating to me. I thought to myself, well, wouldn't it be awesome to get both of these guys together now?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay, okay.
And I would be making the host, and then I reached out to them and I shared their critiques of each other, and both of them were like, well, yeah, you know what? Let's make this happen. I would be very happy to talk to this quote unquote fool. And they did, and I had them over here, and they were having a great exchange yet again, and it was fascinating because they were seemingly of so different opinion, and then they got together, and they were closer than they thought. On many personal things. On the political things, they were very far apart, but then on so many personal things, they were so close that at the end of the day, they cheered. They cheered their glasses, and they shook hands and said, well, it was beautiful to talk to you. Agree to disagree. And it was very good to get critique of my own ideas and get a reflection of my own ideas through someone that's so far from me, because those things don't generally happen. Yeah, we live in our bubbles. Just us two talking to each other. We already figured before we started recording that we have a similar background in some ways. It's hard to talk to someone that's so vastly different from your ideology or thinking, which is why traveling comes in, and which is also why I make the podcast, because my ambition is to bring birds of a different flock together and let them fly.
It captures the power of conversation. Like the biggest problem that you can have is if you believe in a certain thing and that everybody else who doesn't believe that thing is the enemy, and therefore everything that they say is not to be listened to, or is to be actively blocked or something like that. That's where conversation stops. That's where understanding each other stops. So facilitating these kind of conversations where two people that are, on a certain spectrum, in this case, I think it was political, are completely on opposite end of each other. If you engage them in a conversation, you will figure out that there's a lot in common that you have with a person, because you are both humans. You both have human experiences. You both like certain foods. You both like watching certain shows. You might be different in many ways, but you are the same in many other ways as well. And that is just the beauty of bringing people together for a conversation. 100%. So very nice that you made that happen. And even more nice that they agreed to it. Sounds like you didn't have to do a lot of trouble for that.
I had to do a little bit of work. They had, I remember they had some hesitancy. It was small. They were generally open, and because I offered them to do it in a neutral place, and I think to take a little bit of tapping on my shoulder, it was me giving them the impression that I'm going to be there and I'm going to regulate it so that they're not going to go after each other.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So if they had just met each other like that, if they just ran each other on a protest on the street, it might have gotten more heated. On a bad day, who knows? Also, I got to give it up to those two. Those two are just friendly people. They're not very good. The one is a bit more confrontational than the other, but they're both open-minded, right? So that helps.
But why did they believe you? So you told them like, okay, I'm gonna create a neutral environment for you. You both can go at it. I will moderate it for the conversation to be fair. Those kind of parameters you already laid out from the beginning. Why did they believe you? What was it exactly that you gave them that made them more? What would the word be? More confident that would actually be the case.
I think because they both spoke to me before, personally, and they got a sense of me, and they thought, yeah, if Rico's in the room, it'll be fine. He'll manage this. Okay.
So you gave them a feeling of
security
at the beginning, right?
Yeah. I think you'd have to ask them, but I think that would be my guess.
No, I think that might be right. I got the similar opportunity, let's say, at the beginning of the podcast. So the first guest was Marine Graaf, and she wasn't particularly hesitant at the beginning. She was actually very friendly, very open. She was excited to do the podcast. She provided me with a couple of topics, and we just recorded it, and it was a lot of fun, actually. We talked a bit before the podcast, we talked a bit after the podcast. So the podcast itself was like an hour, but we talked for like maybe 2 hours or something like that. In hindsight, way too short, but hey, that's just a lack of experience on my side, so it is what it is. But regardless, what Marine did a short while later is underline my invitation to have people on the podcast to explore their conversations with positive comments like, hey, I was nervous at the beginning before coming on the podcast, but Jeffrey took it away within minutes after starting, and then the conversation was very, very nice. And that comment, I think at least, triggered the next couple to come forward and also want to record their own episode and their own conversation. And that comment was repeated a couple of times by different people, which then in turn means you are building up a certain reputation, that you are not messing with people. Let's say you're not manipulating those. You're not manipulating people, and that really helps. That
really helps, and it also goes to tie into likes and comments and shares and that sort of thing, where even strangers would say, "Oh, that was interesting. Please record another one." Right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's really fun. Even people in my social circle, for example, even literally this morning, I spoke to I'm not sure if he's a professor, but he teaches at the university. He teaches psychology. Great guy, lovely guy. He's one of my jiu-jitsu buddies. But I spoke to him about the podcast, and there was also a couple of things that we discussed regarding psychology that were very interesting. And I also laid out a couple of ideas to him that I picked up from Adam, for example. And Adam mentioned, so this is just a quick example, but Adam mentioned that the difference between psychology and a psychologist and a psychoanalyst is that a psychologist will focus on the symptoms, and a psychoanalyst will go towards the root cause and solve that root cause. So, your early childhood traumas and those kind of things. So I laid that out to him, and I asked him, like, hey, what do you think about this? And he gave me the psychologist version of the answer. But regardless, the podcast came up, and there's a really good chance he was really excited about it, and there's a really good chance he's going to come on soon, which would be absolutely lovely. And that just underlines it understripes the beauty of people sharing their stories and sharing their expertises and sharing their experiences, because that stuff contains so much beautiful information that you can learn so much from. And on top of that, it's just very, very fun. So the more, to me personally, having these kind of conversations, also with you right now, Enrico, it excites me every single time. It's really fun to do.
Yeah, it's funny because we could just have these conversations on a regular basis all the time, right? You would ask, like, why would you need this computer and this recording device to do? Why don't you just sit down and have it like that? Well, because otherwise it's not that official, and you take it so serious that you sort of make sure you're not going to be distracted, and do all the cautionary things beforehand, that you're going to concentrate just on this conversation, because we're living in such a distractible environment that, yeah, even if you do have a great conversation, there might be a call, there might be something on TV, something might happen on the street when you're walking around, and then suddenly you're in a totally different place. So I think setting that up, even with friends, and saying, I had this idea, yeah, maybe we should have podcasts with friends also, just for us to find a better way to communicate. It's also a lot better for people to interrupt each other. Like, you wouldn't interrupt each other so much when you hear yourself and the other guy. Yeah?
Yeah, and about interruption, just give me one quick second, because apparently my wife is in front of the door and she can't open the door, so she's locked out.
Perfect.
Give me one quick sec, I'll be right back.
Yeah, please.
All right, and the wife is safe inside.
That's important.
It's getting kind of cold outside right now around this hour, so yeah, will not be appreciated if I let her wait too long. But anyway, what's your plan with the podcast right now? What are you thinking?
Yeah, exactly. So I want to lay out the sort of vision for this podcast with you and with the listeners, because I'm planning something that is going to be engaging, it's going to be interesting and big for people, because I would like to bring people together and make beautiful conversations happen. I want to cross the divide of different ideologies and show people from all of their sides. So the idea is to have a video podcast in which there is the ability for people to present themselves a bit more than just the conversation. So what I'm lacking with the podcast is usually that I'm listening to a great conversation and then it's over and people go their ways. And I've always thought, wouldn't it be interesting to see in what type of car this person goes into now, where they live, where they work, where they show themselves a bit more than just through that conversation, where they express themselves and live. So have a bit of a report on the person, a documentary on that person, and the ability to show themselves more than just through the conversation itself. It's a pretty ambitious goal, I know, and this is pitching with myself ideas of how to conduct this, and how this will work practically. But I'm just curious about people that have a sort of foreign idea for me. So my podcast is called Xenophilia. Yeah, and that means the love for the foreign, and with my travel background and with my skill to bump into interesting people on a pretty regular basis, I got the chance to meet people from vastly different cultures and belief systems, and I would like to give them the idea to express their ideas about the world and whatever they find interesting, and also show how they live. So the long-term goal is to make this a travel podcast in which we will cross cultural boundaries and show people in different parts of the world and their idea of conducting themselves, their idea of understanding the world, um, and giving them an ability to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you will find the people beforehand, or you will go to a country and then look for guests that come onto the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I did, now we did 3 episodes. The first, I looked up someone beforehand. The second, I just found someone right there, as I mentioned. And I think both ways worked out. So I'll do just anything. I'll just do whoever is interested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is your goal primarily? So what do you want to reach? Is it more like knowledge driven? You want to learn from it? Is it more like showing the world the experience of the person in a specific environment? What is like the specific thing you're aiming for, or specific things?
I want to feed my own curiosity. So I want to feed my own
Mm-hmm.
curiosity for the foreign idea and for the foreigner. And I would like to present that in a way that it's engaging for everyone else that cares to also find something in that conversation and in that report.
Right. Okay.
So it is egoistic in one way because I'm going to talk to whoever I think is worthwhile. And that can be a acclaimed person in some way, or just a random guy on the street. And value them so much that they feel comfortable to express themselves freely and openly and make their foreign idea heard, and through the channel of me giving them the chance to um, just talk very openly about whatever they care for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think it's egocentrical at all, to be honest.
Mm.
What I found, and this is my personal experience, but what I found is that people really enjoy telling their stories. People, generally speaking, people really enjoy talking about their lives, talking about their stories, talking about their thoughts, and giving them the opportunity to do that in a way that is calm and collected and organized, but not aiming at a specific outcome. Before you and I started this conversation, I have no idea where this conversation is going to end. Pretty much, I have um, um, almost no questions prepared for this conversation. I haven't used a single prepared question so far in this conversation. I have no idea. We'll see. We're in the middle of a conversation. And that, generally speaking, works, in my experience, the best. And people really enjoy that, especially, and you brought it up earlier in this conversation as well, if I want to make sure that I really understand what you're saying and what you're really driving for, I will summarize you in my own words, and then you can say, "Yeah, Jeff, you got this," or "You don't really have this. We need to tweak this a little bit."
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, at the end of the conversation, you have an episode recorded, a conversation recorded then that's people are really happy with. They're really happy with the ability to speak. That's valuable, and I'm not. So I don't. I'm curious what your experience is in this case. But if I look at myself, and ask myself the question, how many times have you gotten the opportunity to tell your story?
Mm.
I've asked this question on the Academy as well, and I believe the numbers were that around 60% or 70%, a really large amount of the people that I asked this question that reply to it, have never had the ability to tell their stories to someone. That to me is ludicrous. It's bizarre. It's unbelievable. There's something about. That's how I feel about it. So correct me if you feel differently about it, but to me, the ability to share your story and to share what you're thinking, it's one of the most fulfilling, beautiful things that a human can do, I think, especially if others are listening to it. There's nothing more frustrating, there's nothing more painful than trying to get a message across with no ears hearing it. That to me sounds like hell. That's terrible.
It absolutely, it takes something off your shoulders too. You sort of walk around with your with your baggage. And if someone gives you the ability to drop that baggage, and have a look at all the stuff that you brought, because we all bring a whole lot of stuff with us, and is actually open and curious about the stuff that you bring, and it has a transforming effect, I would say. Even it makes you stronger. It gives you optimism and hope, strength for yourself, self-confidence. If that person engaging with you is doing it in the right way. So of course, always together that you have that caveat there. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think it's a beautiful thing of what you're doing, trying to reach out to the people of the academy, to share their stories, let them speak, and give them the opportunity to be heard. What's your vision of where this is going to go? Are you just going with the flow, and do you have any particular goal in mind, or where do you see yourself in the next couple of months?
Yeah, this is also a question I prepared for you. So my question will be slightly different. I will ask it more in the sense of like, how do you measure success in your podcasting journey? So how do you, is it through impact? Is it through reach? Is it through, personal fulfillment? Something like that. So this is a variant to that question. So let's both answer it if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
My answer to this question is, I'm naturally a very curious person. So this, to me, is a mechanism to learn a lot very fast from many different people. That's one. Two is, that's the argument that I just laid out. I know that many people have never had the opportunity to tell their story. I hope that with this, that opportunity presents itself, which people can use to tell their story, whatever that story is. It may be, that they want to talk about their expertise. That's more than fine. If they want to tell about their life in a more autobiographical way, also more than fine. That doesn't matter. Telling your story, I think, is a very important thing, and people should have the ability to do that. And they should have people listening to them. I think that's the and this also touches a personal note for me, because I know personally how painful it is when you're trying to tell a story and no one's listening to you. That's one of the worst things that can, to me at least, that's one of the worst things that a person can feel. So that's a really big driver. And third of all, it's just a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun. This is to me at least the best way to really engage with people, to really to get to know people, and to really share some thoughts, to really share some ideas, and to figure out what's what, where the truth is, what should we go for. I think that's an absolute beautiful thing. And some of the people that came onto the podcast, I consider right now also very good friends of mine. And I'm keeping into contact with them, even if it's just a mail every now and then, that I'm getting from someone, or that I'm sending to someone, or if it's some contact on Discord, or, if it's, some, even a thumbs up on LinkedIn, or like a message on LinkedIn, or something like that, that's just more than fine. But that, to me, is awesome. There's right now, there's almost nothing better than that. So yeah, if back to your question, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? Of course, growing the podcast and getting, reaching a broader audience. Sure, that's part of the goal. but it's not what I'm aiming for right now actively at the moment. What I'm aiming for right now actively at the moment is getting people on that are interesting and that have stories to tell and that want to have a awesome conversation. That's my primary goal, and the rest will come with that. So to be honest, the only thing I want to do right now is have great conversations, and to everybody who's listening, give a podcast that is interesting, engaging, and fun, with a good production quality. Hence the video discussion that we had earlier. But yes, that will be my answer.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, it's much appreciated, because from the other side, from people that will talk to you, they will have something from it. They have your open ear, your questions and chance to speak, and so that's much appreciated from your audience, as I say. Yes.
How
so
about
for
you?
me, yeah. So what I consider success. What I consider success is that I will have a string of conversations, so that I will have that I will continue to produce more of these conversations with more of these conversations that I have already had with the quality mentioned. And the fact to get to people that share a foreign idea with me, I will consider a success. So through taking the podcast as a way of presenting myself as an open person that will give the chance to all people's to express their ideas. So present myself as the guy that it's fine to talk with, and from all walks of life. I don't know if I'm expressing myself well right now, but I'm saying, showing through the podcast that it is going to be a great way for the people to express their naive and maybe stupid and maybe foreign and maybe contradictory ways of how they see the world. Yeah. That will be success. So so with the podcast, getting to these foreigners, because right now I'm not traveling. Right now I'm based at home, and I will try to use this podcast to reach out to people that will give me something that I had no idea about before. So I'm actively looking for the foreign idea. And the other part of that story is then, once I hear that foreign idea, and I have a repertoire of people with from all walks of life, I will try to bring people together as well, just as I did with the third episode that we did. We'll try to make a situation where both of the conversation partners feel happy to come together and then debate their differences. Yeah. So I want to heal the divide in a way. I want to bring people together that seemingly not have much in common, bring them together and make them realize that they have quite a bunch of it in common.
Yeah, create an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, create an interesting dynamic through me for the conversational partners to exchange and disagree, and fundamentally disagree, and that would be great. So the success for me is to create content that I would love to listen to myself. As I said before, I'm also a big podcast listener, so I'd like to make, and this is where the egoistic thing comes back again. But I would just like to produce content that I would like to see myself, and that's going to be hella foreign ideas, and quite a clash of ideas, foreign ideas, hella foreign ideas, and clash of those. And I don't mean clash in a confrontational way, in a
like a coming together way.
In a coming together way. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like you want to be a conduit for expression and exploration that people can engage in order to, through that interesting dynamic, results and findings that might otherwise be lost forever, pretty much. You're trying to uncover those.
Yes. Yeah. You can say that.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It provides a mechanism for everybody to be curious, for everybody to learn, to interact with each other, and to be quite honest, certain, to use your words from earlier, if there are people in specific bubbles and you are capable somehow of getting these people together from different bubbles, that creates a very interesting dynamic that can produce quite an interesting conversation, especially. And this is a challenge. This is going to be a challenge on your side, but especially if you can moderate the conversation properly, so it doesn't become hostile or like a dirt throw match or something like that. It can be truly really interesting.
Oh yeah, and that's the other aspect of it. Through it, I'm going to learn to conduct myself better, speak better, moderate better, and sort of hold people in check. Also have the ability to point out if people contradict themselves or don't make sense in my view right now. So yeah, certainly there's a bit of learning self-reflection on my part in there as well.
Are you bringing some social skills to the table that you think might help you with the moderation?
I've done I used to be a radio host for the student radio, so I have a bit of moderational skills there. We hosted some talk shows there, which was fun, and I think I learned a bit through that. My general characteristics of being open and being agreeable, I think also help to give people a feeling that it's fine to talk to me. And everything that I picked up from experiencing all these different cultures, I think it can't hurt.
Yeah. Good luck with that. I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on. So I'll mention the podcast in the description under this episode for sure, so people can also find you. But I'm very curious to see where you're going to take it. It sounds like a very interesting thing.
That's much appreciated. Yes, thank you so much. I will have to mention that it is in German at the moment. So the first 3 episodes are in German. If there is any German Academy participants in general, anyway, please reach out. I would like to expand my community in that sense as well. So if you happen to speak German, then there's a great conversation for you. Also, if you just if you don't understand German, it does have video. It might be interesting to just look at some of the pictures there. We'll see where the journey goes. Absolutely.
Are you planning on doing it in English as well?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would love to. I'd love to do it in English as well, just to expand the audience and do that there too. But at the moment, it's 3 episodes in German.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It was a question also I asked myself in the beginning, and it came from, so like I told you before the conversation, the idea of starting a podcast didn't come up during the after the academy started. I've already had it for years. And back in the day, I used to ask myself, should it be in Dutch? Should it be in English? Quite an obvious question, of course. But during the academy and with the guests that came on, it's a very easy decision. I instantly made the decision, like, I'm going to go full on English. I also don't have any plans to do any Dutch podcasts, at least not anytime soon. Let's just say it like that. And I also noticed that most of the viewers aren't from Netherlands. There's a couple of viewers from Netherlands, but in my case, most come from the United States and Canada, and I believe also Australia. Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense to do it in English because you have a way bigger audience than if it's in your native tongue.
Absolutely. And if I'm gonna fish for some English fish, so to speak, once I'm on the road again, it'll certainly be that. But now that I hang around here in Germany, obviously I'm gonna run into more Germans. Let's talk about the academy for a moment.
Sure.
Where do you think it is going? How do you feel about what it is right now and what its possible prospects are for what it will be in the future?
I really like what it is right now. So I made this comparison before. I'm not sure which conversation it was, but regardless, the comparison that I made was that the Peterson Academy is kind of like masterclass.com, which is a platform on which you can find different courses that have multiple episodes, and you can watch those episodes, finish the course, and there's some additional resources that you can download, some testing that you can do. But generally speaking, you start the course, you finish the course, then you move on to the next course, pretty much. And that is also what Peterson Academy is. So for now, I know what they're saying what they're saying they would like it to be. And what they're saying is that they want to create an online university that kind of displaces the currently existing universities and provide people with a place where they can learn that is devoid of ideology. That's what they want to create. And to be honest, to give them their fair credit, they have done a very good job at that so far. But I'm not sure if that's gonna be the end point where they're also gonna end. I think I have the feeling, and this is not based on anything. This is just a personal feeling. But the formula that they have is very good to add video educational content on. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the future they work together with other content creators in order to get courses on the Peterson Academy. Kind of like what you have with companies like Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, or a couple of these kind of companies where you can get courses, do those courses on that specific platform. And the Academy, to me, seems to be very ripe for something like that. Which also from a financial standpoint would make sense because, then you have licensing and those kind of things. So I'm curious, especially with the accreditation that they're working on right now. I'm curious where they're going to take it. But I think it makes sense to add that third-party layer as well with the third-party content creation on the platform.
Yeah, I could see myself, I could see like people like Huberman. I think he plans to do sort of short videos on singular topics, joining in.
100%.
Yeah. And then that's sort of like we talked about it before, Netflix being now not what it used to be. School, the traditional university now not being what it used to be. And this new thing being something like that, where they think things differently and are engaging and interesting for people to join in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, people like him. If Andrew Huberman would come on and make like half an hour episodes about all these different topics, that would be absolutely amazing to have on an academy like this.
Yeah,
it also from both a technical standpoint and a educational standpoint, it makes sense to have those kind of people on the platform. So yeah, curious to see what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah. it's exciting. It's exciting and it's fun.
Yeah.
The courses that I already had a look at are great. You do realize that they're at the beginning of their development. There's still many things that you would wish for, and I hope that they're going to make a good deal incorporating also many more technical aspects to make the site more open for communication between the students, learning classes, different learning groups that come together, creative people maybe joining to work on something together. Yeah, and have all that come through.
Yeah, for sure. Have you interacted with the social environment also?
I don't generally use social media very much, so I haven't really done all too much in that regard. I don't know. I might have posted. I posted my idea about the podcast. This is how I got to you. I posted my idea about the podcast that I'm looking for interesting people that want to share their story. And someone mentioned you and said, "Hey, you should talk to this guy." And
okay.
that's how I got to you. So so far so good. It's only been 3 posts, and I'm already made a connection with you. So that worked out really well. I'm just always hesitant to post because I'm not known to be the most publicly expressive person. I know I'm going to have to work on that if I'm going to have a public podcast. But yeah, so I didn't engage all too much with it at the moment. Yeah.
To be honest, when I joined, I went in with the same attitude as you have at the moment. So I'm also not a social media guy. I mean, I had a Twitter account, but I don't use Twitter to engage with people. And right now it's called X, but back then it was called Twitter. I use Twitter to follow people that I find interesting and to read their tweets and then that way stay up to date. That's pretty much it. Facebook, big no. Instagram, well, right now I have it for the podcast, but in general, big no. And pretty much anything else, I don't have any social media at all. LinkedIn is the exception because I do use LinkedIn for my business. So that is a social media that I'm active within quotation marks because I never post anything, not yet at least, and I've decided not to engage my LinkedIn with the podcast yet. As of now, that's a conscious decision. But aside from that, LinkedIn is something I'm active on. But bringing it back to the academy, so I went in with that attitude as not being a social media guy. I went to the academy and I thought, like, okay, I'm gonna probably spend 95% on the courses and maybe maximum 5% on the social environment. Well, that number right now is completely opposite, and maybe it's more like 99-1 because 12 weeks ago, I just checked it actually this morning. 12 weeks ago, I signed up to the what's the course called again? Symbolism and Christianity by Jonathan Pageau. And it has, if I'm not mistaken, 6 lectures. And I posted about starting that lecture, that course, 12 weeks ago. And right now, I'm at episode 5. I haven't looked at a single lecture in the last 8 weeks because the social environment is just, to me, way more interesting. At least for now. And yeah, with the podcast on top of that, that's also a very good way to learn from many great people. So yeah, even though I'm not interacting with the courses, which is the learning part of the platform, to me right now the social environment is the learning platform instead of the actual courses.
What do you learn through this social platform?
Well, having these conversations, just like with you.
Right.
Yeah, and also there's.
But generally, do you scroll through the thing and see like, oh, because I see people paint and they're like, well, don't you want to listen to my music, or they post a quote and this and that, and I just sort of I just don't like, just like with the stream generally, I just don't care. Or do you find that engaging? Do you scroll through and you're like, oh, how inspiring this content, this painting of this random person.
Well, to me, they're not random people anymore.
I
So
see. Okay,
yeah,
so
I've
you know a bunch. Okay.
yeah. So I'm quite active on the environment, which
Uh,
means that the people that are coming around are not to me random anymore. And of course, there's people around that I don't recognize. But I've been engaged with a lot of people. People like Frankie, people like Mara, people like Dusty, who I'm going to talk to actually quite soon, if everything goes well. Those are great people with very interesting statements, very interesting questions. Questions like, what do you think beauty is, or how would you define beauty? It's a super simple question, right? And you could answer it with something like, yeah, okay, well, what do I find beautiful? The flower in the middle of the forest that's blooming very well, right? Okay, fine. It's also an answer. But generally what you find under those kind of questions is like way deeper thought and way more, well, not just definition, but also like psychological interpretation of the concept of beauty. What is it exactly, and how do people see that? It's hugely interesting, and there's a bunch of these questions. What is beauty? What do you think love is? What does it mean to be saved within the Christian context? So generally, to answer your question, yes, I will scroll through it, and I will pay extra attention to the people that I know post interesting stuff. Once again, the people that I just mentioned are very good examples of that. I'll pay extra attention to that. And if it's interesting, if I have the idea that I can provide something to think about, or I can pose a question that I'm genuinely curious about, something like that. Yeah, 100%. I will interact with it. 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That makes a difference if you know who's speaking. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, but even if you don't know, right? So my way is just, if I scroll down, I think if you look at it strict from the perspective of a hierarchy, I would pay extra attention to the people that I know ask very interesting questions or state very interesting statements. I think on the second layer, I will just scroll through it and just you know look at what tries to capture my attention. Like when you're walking outside on the street, things capture your attention. And why do they capture your attention? Who knows? For you, they are interesting. For you, they glow more. They pop out. They capture you. They want you to come close to them. They want you to investigate. And that is what some of the posts also do to me. They ask a very specific question, or they have a very specific image that to me it captures my attention, and then I check it, and then if it is indeed living up to to the expectation that I have of it, I engage in it, and I post my thoughts, or I ask a question, or I do something like that. Yeah, I think those are the two primary ways where how I'm navigating the social environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. For me, it's more the lecturers, the lecturers itself.
Hmm.
Um, they they provide very good information, and yeah, I hope there will be more of that, and I know there is, and we'll see where that journey is going.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. 100%. 100%.
yeah.
And try out the social environment. See if there's something interesting for you there. Give it a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta lean out a little bit more in order to make yourself public, and especially if you got something to show for. If you want
Hmm.
people to engage with something, you certainly gotta sort of step out, communicate. And for me, that's always been the face-to-face communication. But online, absolutely, I will. it will have to be also through that media channel.
Maybe a last thing to say on that front. Generally, I'm a pretty private guy, so I don't like to put my opinions or my thoughts or my even just my likeness on the internet. I generally don't like that much, which was something that I had to overcome with the podcast actually.
Yeah.
But aside from the podcast, so specifically on the social environment, to me, it's in the beginning it was quite challenging is not the word, and scary is also not the word, but it's quite intimidating to post things that hit me deep, for example, or things that I think. And there's a couple of things I think that pushed me over the wall, and to make the call to do that and to interact on a deeper level. And first of all, it's a closed environment, which means that people who didn't pay the fee can't enter or can't even see the social interactions between people. I think that's crucial. The moment that stops, so the moment that the social environment becomes open to everybody, I think that will be a massive problem. That will be I think that will be a stupid decision to make. So that's to me, it provides, it's like a walled garden, right? It's an area that's just for the people that want to be there, aside from the trolls that buy and then, come in and go out because they post something weird. But aside from that, that helps.
Yeah.
What also helps is that people generally seem very curious and very interested. So there have been a couple of instances where people didn't behave as they ideally should behave. Let's just say it like that.
Okay.
They were either trolling, they were being very offensive. Well, offensive is not the right word, but they were being on purpose triggering to people, being very trollish. That doesn't help, but they have generally been kicked off because this has nothing to do with freedom of speech. This is just people going out of their way to be annoying. That's pretty much what it boils down to. But that helps. So it's a walled garden. People generally seem to be interested, curious, friendly, and helpful. That helps. So these two things brought me to the realization that it's a good environment to actually test some thoughts in and to see what sticks and what is wrong. Because I know that if I make a statement on the social environment, I post a thought over there that is flawed for whatever reason, I know that people are going to challenge that thought, because they are not just yes-sayers. They're not level 100 agreeable, generally speaking. But I know they're going to do that in a respectful, productive way that is not aimed at making fun or destroying. It's aimed at helping, improving, and making each other better and smarter and wiser. And that generally seems to be the attitude, to me at least.
I'm going to try to make some more experiences on that front as well in the future. Yeah. That sounds very good.
Beautiful, man. All right, I think we are nearing towards the end. Do you have anything else that you would like to bring up?
I came in with a blank sheet of paper in front of me. I didn't want to talk about anything in particular. And I think what we have talked about was plenty. And thank you, Jeffrey.
My pleasure, Enrico. Very, very nice having you. And we should, if you're open to it at least, we should definitely follow up because there were a couple of topics like the whole anthropology thing.
Oh, that's right.
We didn't go there at all. But that might be true. a nice follow up.
Absolutely. I'm very happy to speak to you again, listen to your content more, and in the future. Share your idea, share what you have going on over there, and I hope to see you also on the social side of the Academy page.
Yeah, 100%. And for everybody who's listening, where can they find you?
They can find my podcast on YouTube, and it's called Xenophilia, or the social page
Perfect.
of the Academy. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I'll be sure to put it in the description as well. So on all platforms, it will pop up in the description, either below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or in the information section on Apple Podcast or Spotify. That should be the way to find you.
Hey, yeah, sweet. I appreciate that.
Beautiful, Enrico. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming online.
Thank you too. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely. We'll stay in touch, and we'll definitely follow up with the other topics. I'm really curious about those as well.
Let's please do that. Yeah, absolutely. And all the best for you and your wife and your project.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Thanks. Take care of yourself.
Cool, man. Bye-bye.
And with that, Enrico has left the conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing or following the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Thank you for listening. And as always, take care.